After the devastating conclusion of World War II, Japan begins to rebuild itself. It not only has to rebuild its cities, but also has to rebuild its values and identity as a whole as a country. In this Kazuo Ishiguro novel, the reader follows an aging artist's memories as he retells his promising career as an artist who rallied his country during the hardship through his patriotic, artistic direction. In the end, he has to deal with the shame and scrutiny by the younger generation with different perspective on Japanese values. This novel isn't about succeeding through creative arts or having a glamorous life as an artist, but rather it's about a man reflecting on his life. This novel shows shame, guilt, and running away from your past. And this is all done through retelling of memories of Masuji Ono, our main character. Hello, my name is Frank. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. In my YouTube channel, I just kind of go over books, like book reviews or book summary, and then theme analysis. Currently, we are reading An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. I think this is my fourth book. But yeah, for this novel doesn't have any chapters. It's more so broken into a series of time, or like just chronologically, it's broken up into months of the year. So we basically start off in October of 1948, and then we go all the way to the end of the book, which would be June of 1950. So it's just within that 2 hour time frame, everything kind of happens. But if you know of Ishiguro writing, then has to do a lot of with memories and stuff. So throughout the chapters, we reflect back on his life, and we reflect back on certain time throughout his upbringing. So yeah, it just a little bit confusing. It is, I can't lie. There would be time where he's almost retired artist, and then the next line he goes back to kind of reminiscing about his childhood when he was wanting to become an artist, and he's having a confrontation with his dad. So, but other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So yeah, let's get straight to the plot summary. October 1948. Masuji Ono is showing his house to a potential buyer. The house is badly damaged from the war, and then he talks about how he and his family used to chat in the veranda during summer months, as he starts reminiscing about living in this house. His youngest daughter, Noriko, still lives with him, while his eldest daughter, Setsuko, lives in a different city with her husband and their son. Ono lost his wife and his son, Kenji, during the war. Ono's life after the war is quiet and often filled with chores to keep up with his house. But the marriage prospect of Noriko is keeping him anxious, more so being anxious on how his past could hinder his daughter's chances to get married. Setsuko, his oldest daughter, and her son Ichiro visit Oniko and Ono at their house. While catching up with his eldest daughter, the conversation shifts into Noriko's marriage prospect. Ono claims everything's going great, and Noriko will get married in no time, but Setsuko remains uncertain, and even brings up Noriko's failed marriage arrangement last year. She asks Ono if he knows the reason behind the sudden failed marriage proposal, and he quickly dismisses her question. The fact is, Setsuko and Noriko, the daughters, suspect Ono's past and his involvement with nationalistic propaganda that he was putting out as an artist back in the days, that might have to do something with hindering Noriko's last marriage proposal. And definitely, they kind of suspect Ono's past involvement tarnishing their family reputation, and then also kind of resulting into Noriko's failed marriage. And then the narration kind of flashes back to Ono's adolescence year, especially when he's confronted by his father about his dreams of becoming an artist. His father warns Ono about the douchebaggery and hardship life an artist has to live. But instead of discouraging Ono, this only fuels his motivation to become a great artist. Ono's first job as an artist was to paint postcard that showed the Japanese landscape to the Western world, and then he was working under Master Takeda at this point. During his work, he was acquainted with a political and nationalistic thinker named Matsuda. Matsuda believes that art could help Japanese be very patriotic, and even help the Japanese empire become strong and establish stronghold in the world like Germany and Italy at that point. The narration comes back to the present time where Ono is visiting Matsuda for the first time in a very long time. Matsuda and Ono are longtime friends, colleagues, and they start to chat and reminisce about their past lives. While reminiscing, Ono confirms his reason to visit Matsuda, and the reason was for the sake of his daughter Noriko's marriage proposal. So apparently they do background checks, and doing background check for a possible suitor was customary at this time. So they're doing background checks for Noriko's family, which happens to be Ono, and his past. So, and once again, with this in mind, Ono politely asked Matsuda to put in good word on his behalf if anyone came and inquired about his past, which Matsuda gladly agrees to do. While leaving, Matsuda kind of makes a point and advises Ono to talk to his old protege, Kuroda. And he's kind of worried that Kuroda could damage Ono's reputation because they had a very bad fallout. And this is end of October 1948. And this is the start of April 1949 in the novel. Ono tries to visit Kuroda. He even arrives at Kuroda's estate in hopes of reconciling their relationship, but then is turned away swiftly by Kuroda's protege. The protege blames Ono for everything. He blames Ono for labeling his teacher a traitor. So apparently Kuroda was arrested and sent to prison and treated harshly. Apparently, once again, Ono and Kuroda had a big fallout on their artistic ventures. Kuroda rejected and disapproved of the nationalistic propaganda that was being produced by Ono. Ono believed that Kuroda's different ideals were going to hurt Japan at this time, and then he even reported him to the authorities. This ended up leading to Kuroda's arrest. Ono writes Kuroda a letter of forgiveness, but Kuroda rejects it coldly and implies that he hasn't forgiven his old teacher. And then once again, the narration goes back to Noriko's marriage meeting. This one is a little bit different. This one's more of a formal setting and is called the Miyai. This meeting seems to be more tense. While trying to break the tension, Ono kind of blurts out and he acknowledges his past. His work and how his art and ideals could have caused real damage or real harm to the Japanese people at that time. The future in-laws are shocked by this abrupt interaction or abrupt reaction from Ono, and they politely discredit his impact or the impact his art had on Japan at that time. For Ono, this apology was very heartfelt, and he even felt honorful as he was taking responsibilities for his actions from the past. He believes by doing this, he has saved his daughter's Noriko's future and has even redeemed himself. And this also concludes April of 1949. November 1949. This is after a few months have passed since Noriko's Miyai. Ono takes his grandson Ichiro out for lunch, and Ichiro mimics or can't stop mimicking Popeye the Sailor Man. Ono highlights the impact the Western world has had on the young Japanese generation already, and this kind of leaves Ono curious and a little bit at unease. Ichiro mentions Yukio Nagaguchi. Yukio was a wartime composer who committed suicide out of guilt. Ono believes that Yukio's decision was right and honorable. And there's also a few minor characters within the novel that also kind of off themselves, and Ono is neutral about their decision, neutral in a way that he's sad that they ended up taking their lives away, but he also kind of accepts the fact that maybe what they did was right or honorable, like in that aspect, I guess. And then Ono's family gets worried that he might also be considering suicide because of his past, but Ono quickly denies any speculation of him wanting to end his life. The narration goes back to Ono working at the second firm with an artist called the Tortoise. Well, the Tortoise is a nickname, and then the nickname was given largely for his lack of speed when it came down to producing any art. They are working under a man named Mori-san. Tortoise and Ono used to work at Master Takeda's firm together, their first firm. They started off together, and he was even convinced to leave Master Takeda to follow Ono. The Tortoise saw Ono as a comrade, and he even saw him as a mentor. This is right around the time where Ono was being influenced by Matsuda patriotic ideals. Once the Tortoise finds a piece that Ono has been working on, he is appalled by what is being painted. The Tortoise calls Ono a traitor, and this eventually is the downfall of their friendship, and that's just the end of their friendship. Mori-san, once he kind of finds out Ono's radical shift on his creative philosophy, he ends up taking away all the work that was done under his villa, under his firm, and then eventually kicks Ono out too. And then Ono is now labeled as a traitor as he leaves Mori-san and the Tortoise. And this is end of November 1949. Start of June 1950. After learning about Matsuda's death, he reflects back on his last visit with him. They acknowledge their work during the war, and even Matsuda implies that their effort were marginal. Ono quickly denies this claim and says that their work did matter, for better or worse, and how he insisted on acting on his belief boldly and justly. At present, Noriko has been married and lives in a different city with a child coming soon. And Setsuko, his eldest daughter, is expecting another child. Looks like everything's working out for him. This is kind of the final scene of this book. As he walks through the street where the remnant of his past no longer is present. And then he sees the optimism the future generation is bringing. He can't help but be happy for them and wishing them all the best. And this is the end of the novel. Yeah. This novel was very quick, maybe like 180 pages. So I got done within a few days of just kind of picking this book up. But yeah, it's really good. After this, we'll do the themes now. So I have 3 themes on my script, or 3 themes written out. One of the main themes within this novel is how our main character, Ono, only feels guilty when something is up for him. Like, it's almost like in a way that I guess feeling guilty is only conditional for him, right? So Ono constantly feels bad or guilty of his past action, but only when his reputation is at stake. So he's quite selective when it comes to feeling guilty. For one of the example is one of Ono's student named Shintaro approaches Ono in hopes of putting in good words while applying for a job. And he asks Ono to put in good words under his behalf and even lie about the involvement with nationalistic propaganda under the tutelage of Ono. It's basically denying or a little bit lying about his past to get a job. But then Ono quickly declines this request. He finds this request very insulting. And he tells his old student to just embrace your past rather than rewrite your past. Like, do not be ashamed of what you have done in the past. But yet later, when Ono finds himself in the same position, he approaches Matsuda to protect his reputation and also put in good words for him in order to secure his daughter's wedding proposal. This kind of shows that Ono's remorse seems to be tangled with his pride and his reputation. And that's why it's really like Ono as the main character is very flawed. You know, like throughout the novel, you can just kind of tell that he isn't being very sincere about his memory. But yeah, this is one of my favorite themes And the second theme is just what does it mean to be an artist? You know, what makes you an artist? Is it when you create art that invokes beauty or emotions? Or is it when you use your art as a tool to present a cause? So, this is an active theme throughout the novel. Our main character has been influenced by the ideology of a strong imperial Japan. Therefore, he starts working on his art through a propagandistic lens and creates art to promote the political ideas that he believes in. In contrast, his foil, the tortoise, believes in keeping artistic integrity. When the tortoise sees Ono's painting with strong propaganda messages, he is disappointed to see Ono's use of art as a tool to push. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the generational shift or the generational divide. It's evident how generation view has been changed and influenced in Japan by the Western world. Something cute like Ono's grandson mimicking Popeye the Sailor Man. It confused Ono as he was puzzled, and he was confused as why he didn't think his grandson thought the Japanese samurai or other Japanese character was cool. In contrast, Ono's son-in-law who blames Ono's generation for leading Japan to a war where it has done tremendous damage to their country. The son-in-law holds serious resentment and despises Ono's generation. This is quite relevant even to our like society or as a very relevant to real life altogether. As a Gen Zer, I feel like the older generation, like Boomer or Gen X, kind of get a bad rep. They aren't really shown in a very good light. I feel like a lot of our hardship that we face through economic or society, we just kind of blame it on the older generation. And this is kind of alarming because, this cycle could repeat. And like someone down the line, like, will we be looked at this same by the future generation also? Like, will we get the blame and hate for the societal or economic issues that we didn't fix, or we just kind of enabled the flawed system that failed us and that could result in hurting the future generations? Altogether, that's kind of wraps up my themes, and I guess I'll just do a quick video or just quick prompt on if this book is for you. If this book is for you, if you enjoy a slower pace, very memoir-esque writing, then this is definitely for you. And if you enjoy a very conflicted main character or main narrator, then this is definitely for you all. Once again, thank you for joining, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you. Bye.